It's a strange kind of heartbreak watching your own house turn into a place you no longer trust. My daughter and her husband moved in last month, said it was to help me through the winter. I wanted to believe them. I really did. But now, I wake up to whispers behind closed doors, to questions about my memory, my will, my finances. Jason thinks I don't notice. He thinks age makes you blind. But I see everything. I just haven't told him yet. Have you ever felt like a stranger in your own life? This story might feel too familiar. The day Sophie and Jason pulled into my driveway, I remember thinking, this is what peace looks like. Sophie, my daughter, had always been my anchor. After her mother passed, it was just the two of us for years. She grew up quiet, kind, and fiercely loyal. She chose Jason at 24, charming, educated, the kind of man who always shook your hand with both of his. They hadn't visited in over a year. Life in the city had pulled them away, but now they were back, just for a while, Sophie said, until things settled down. The first few days felt warm. We shared meals, cleaned up the garden, even laughed at reruns on the old television. Jason was attentive, thoughtful. Too thoughtful, maybe. He brought me tea without asking, picked up my prescriptions, offered to fix the garage light that hadn't bothered me in years. Then he started asking questions. Nothing direct. Just nudges. So, Frank, he said one night, you ever think about moving somewhere warmer? I shrugged. This place is home. He smiled. Sure, but, maybe it's time to think long term. What would happen to the house? The savings? I knew that tone. I used it myself, ones back when I was an insurance investigator, trying to get a suspect to say a little too much. I decided it was time. That Saturday, I sat Sophie down at the kitchen table. The sun came through the blinds in thin gold lines, landing across the will in my hand. This is yours, I said, when I'm gone. She didn't want to take it, not at first, but I explained it gently. All of it goes to you. The house, the accounts, everything. But there's a clause: this isn't a gift to be passed around like poker chips. It goes into a trust. You can't sell, transfer, or co-sign anything without a third-party trustee. It's not about control. It's about protection. Sophie nodded slowly. From who? I didn't answer that. I didn't need to. She signed the agreement without hesitation. What I didn't know, what I would only learn days later, was that Jason had been standing just outside the door. The hallway creaks when someone walks through it, but he knew the spots that didn't. He heard everything. That night, he didn't speak much over dinner. He kept pushing his peas around with his fork, distracted. He said he was tired. But in his eyes, I saw something shift. He wasn't smiling as much. The charm was still there, but colder, practiced. Jason had always assumed that marrying Sophie meant marrying into security. I don't blame him. I would have thought the same. But now he knew. Even if Sophie inherited everything, he'd never truly have access. No quick sales, no cash outs. Just a locked vault into him without a key. The next morning I found him in my study, standing in front of the bookshelf that hid my safe. He said he was just looking for a book. I said nothing. I simply nodded, turned, and walked back to the kitchen. I had seen enough. There's a look a man gets when he realizes the rules don't work in his favor and he decides to rewrite them. Jason stopped pretending a few days after he overheard the trust clause. Not all at once, of course. He still brought me coffee, still laughed at Sophie's jokes. But there was a flicker behind the smile, now calculating, careful. One afternoon, I caught a glimpse of him on the porch, pacing. Phone pressed to his ear, hand slicing the air. His voice was low, controlled. I just need to know what it takes. If he's declared unfit, does power of attorney transfer? How long does the evaluation process take? He didn't see me standing behind the curtain, but I saw enough. That night, I went back to my old notebooks, the kind I hadn't touched since retirement. My gut, my instincts, they'd kept me alive through 20 years of fraud investigations. I was wrong about people, once or twice, but rarely, and never when it came to men like Jason. The next day, he disappeared into town, claimed he was getting groceries, came back without any. His excuse? Long lines. I'll go again tomorrow. What he really did was meet with a lawyer, a young one, not the kind with mahogany desks and leather chairs, the kind who advertises on late-night radio, helping families take control before it's too late. Jason asked the right questions, got the right answers. If Frank Whitaker could be diagnosed as mentally unfit, a petition could be filed for medical guardianship. Once granted, Sophie could be convinced to sign revised documents on her father's behalf. Jason didn't need to steal. He just needed to make me disappear legally. That same week, little things began happening around the house. I would leave my reading glasses on the kitchen table. They'd end up in the fridge. The thermostat would be cranked to 90, though I never touched it. Once, I woke up to find the back door wide open in the middle of the night, and Jason, half-dressed, telling me I must have forgotten to lock it. Every time I questioned it, he shrugged. "It's okay, Frank. Happens to everyone at your age." Sophie started noticing, too. She'd chuckle nervously. "Dad, you've been a little forgetful lately." It hit me like a brick. This wasn't coincidence. This was construction. He was building a caissone gaslight at a time. I sat in my armchair that evening, lights off, staring at the empty hallway. For years, I feared my daughter might end up with a man who didn't deserve her. Now I knew she married him, not because she was blind, but because she saw only what he wanted her to see. I felt anger, yes, but beneath that, fear. Not for myself, for her. For what he'd do if she ever said no. Have you ever met someone and wondered, are they helping or calculating? If you have, your story might be more familiar than you think. Feel free to share. I've been lied to before. That's not what bothered me. What haunted me was how natural Jason was at it. He wasn't clumsy or aggressive. He didn't rush. He planted suggestions like seed sand waited for them to grow in other people's minds. A master manipulator wears politeness like a well-pressed suit. And he wore it damn well. But I wasn't just an old man with a savings account. I was Frank Whitaker, a tired fraud investigator. If he wanted a game, I'd give him one. I started by leaning into his expectations. "Where did I put my wallet again, Jason?" "Frank, the oven. You left it in the oven." "Oh, right. Must be losing my mind." Each time he smiled, I smiled wider. I began keeping a small pocket recorder in my robe. Whenever Jason caught me in a mistake, I noted it in a separate journal location, time, and exact context. I even wrote down when I faked it, just to stay ahead. Then I installed a camera in the corner of the study, tiny, discreet, aimed at my desk. It looked like a motion detector, but it captured every conversation, every glance toward the safe. I emailed the footage to an old friend from the bureau. "No context yet," I wrote, "but this is going somewhere." Jason didn't suspect a thing. Instead, he escalated. He began spending more time with Sophie Subtle, careful sessions by the fire, or late-night chats in the kitchen. I knew that tone he used. Measured. Reassuring. Manipulative. "I just think," he told her once, when he thought I was asleep, "we need to help your dad with decisions. He's not well, Sophie, and if something happens, we'll be tied up in court for years." "But he's still sharp," she replied. Jason let out a soft laugh. "He forgot your birthday last week." That was a lie. I didn't forget. I pretended to forget because I wanted to see who would remind me. Jason didn't. Sophie did. And now he was using it against me. The following Tuesday, I saw the folder on the kitchen table blue, unmarked, except for one line. Durable power of attorney. I opened it when no one was looking. Jason had already signed. He'd marked financial and medical authority. The only signature missing was Sophie's. That night, after dinner, I watched him pour her a glass of wine. Light some candles. He talked gently, like a man who'd read every page of a psychology textbook. "Just sign it, Soph," he said. "It doesn't mean anything drastic. It's just a safety net. You love your dad. This just gives you the legal footing to act if something happens." She hesitated. He leaned closer. "You'd want to protect him, right?" She signed. My stomach twisted, but I didn't stop her, because I knew something Jason didn't. I had already signed my own document, and mine came with a trapdoor. There are moments a father never forgets. The first time you hold your child, the first time they fall and run to you crying, and the first time they sign their trust away thinking they're protecting you, when in truth, they're giving you up. I watched Sophie sign that power of attorney with steady hands and soft eyes. She didn't flinch. She believed it was the right thing. Not because Jason manipulated her, though he had, but because I had raised her to be trusting. That was the pain. I didn't fail to see Jason for who he was. I failed to prepare my daughter to see it too. Sometimes the cost of raising kind children is that the world teaches them harshness before we can. I made a promise to myself that night, not just to survive this, but to make sure Sophie would never have to survive another man like him. A few days later, the doctor arrived. Dr. Grant. At least, that's what he called himself. No credentials, no medical bag, just a clipboard, a cheap tie, and eyes that never met mine directly. Jason introduced him with too much cheer. "Frank, this is Dr. Grant. Just a quick cognitive check. Nothing serious." I smiled. "Oh, good," I said. "I was wondering why the toaster keeps asking me about my taxes." Jason laughed too loud. The doctor jotted something down. Performance review had begun. They sat me in the living room. The fireplace flickered behind them like a silent judge. Dr. Grant asked me simple question. "What year is it?" "Blue," I answered. He paused. Jason nodded, as if to say, "See? Told you? Who is the current president?" "Still Lincoln, I hope." More notes. "Do you know where you are?" "A waiting room. Between here and hell." Jason chuckled. I gave him exactly what he wanted, but nothing more. He wanted incompetence. I gave him eccentricity. He wanted confusion. I gave him clever nonsense. Because real madness doesn't quote poetry or joke in metaphors. Real madness doesn't play chess 3 nights a week online with strangers and win. But they wouldn't find that in their report. What they would find was a 72-year-old man with diminished capacity, as written by a man whose medical license could be forged with a laser printer and $10. That night, Jason was buzzing. "Everything's lining up," he told Sophie. "Once we get the letter from the doctor, the bank can start the process. Might even refinance for the kitchen remodel." He kissed her forehead. She smiled, unsure, and I sat in the corner chair, staring into the fire, thinking about the difference between intelligence and wisdom. Jason was intelligent, no doubt. But wisdom? Wisdom was hiding in the box under my bed, the real will, the private recordings, and the affidavit signed by my friend Judge Holloway 2 weeks ago. Wisdom was in knowing that timing isn't everything. It's the only thing. And his was almost up. The worst kind of betrayal isn't loud. It's quiet, signed in ink, hidden behind locked doors. A week after the so-called evaluation, I noticed my schedule had changed without my knowledge. Doctor's appointments appeared on the fridge calendar. My prescriptions had been switched to a pharmacy across town. The mail arrived already opened. Then one morning I heard Jason on the phone. He was in the garage, voice low, but I was already outside, pruning the side garden. He didn't know I was within earshot. "Yes, just for observation," he said. "Nothing aggressive. We frame it as early-stage dementia. Temporary stay. It helps speed up court processing." My hands froze over the rose bush. The next words chilled me. "No, she won't know. She's too soft. I'll tell her it's just for testing. I'll drive him myself." He paused. 2 weeks is enough. After that, we can move forward on liquidating the assets." He hung up. For a long time, I just stood there, staring at my reflection in the window, wondering how many other fathers had looked into their own eyes and asked, where did I go wrong with the men we let into our daughters' lives? That night, I played the voice recording back, the one from the garden. Clear, crisp, undeniable. I attached it to an email. Subject: accelerated timeline. Recipient: Attorney Daniel Marcus, one of the few men I still trusted. Then I pulled out the small envelope I'd hidden months ago in my bookshelf. Inside, a notarized revocation of the previous power of attorney Sophie signed. Dated, stamped, legal. I had hoped I'd never have to use it. But Jason wanted me institutionalized. He didn't want me declared unfit. He wanted me removed, like a broken appliance. That's when I knew this wasn't about money anymore. It was about erasure. It started with a phone call. "Mr. Whitaker, this is Lauren from Ridgewood Bank. Just a quick verification, your name is listed as the primary on a property refinance application. We're missing your signature." My breath stalled. "What application?" I asked, though I already knew. She paused. "It was submitted 2 days ago, under your daughter's name. But as primary owner, we still require your authorization." I hung up without answering. Then I sat down at my desk and I didn't move for nearly 5 minutes. Jason hadn't wasted any time. He had the fake evaluation, the power of attorney. And now he was trying to mortgage my house, the one I built with bare hands and 50 years of sweato fund, a dream I never shared. No more pretending. No more patience. I opened the drawer beneath the bookshelf. Inside was a small red binder labeled Exit Strategy. I hadn't needed it for years. Until now. Inside, timestamps, recordings, printed transcripts, screenshots from the hidden camera feed, all organized, indexed, and notarized. I scanned everything and emailed it to Daniel Marcus, my attorney of 30 years. Subject line, activation code, family fire. Then I picked up the phone and made one more call, this one to an old friend at the courthouse. Judge Holloway owed me a favor, and I had never called it in. Until today. That afternoon, I sat Jason down at the kitchen table. "I've been thinking," I said, voice low. "Maybe you're right. Maybe it's time I got help managing things." Jason blinked, then nodded. "You're doing the right thing, Frank. It's never easy to admit when we're slipping." I handed him a folder. "Here," I said. "Updated power of attorney. Legal and binding. Sign it. Take it to the bank. Do what you need to do." He opened it. Scanned the first page. Eyes flicked. Hesitated. Then he smiled. "Thank you," he whispered. The bait was swallowed. What Jason didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that the signature inside that folder wasn't mine. Not really. It was a placeholder, filed in duplicate, one version in his hand, the other in my lawyer's office, with a notarized letter revoking it entirely. More importantly, the document included an embedded clause. Any action taken with this authorization would be considered null and void upon discovery of fraud or coercion, a clause he didn't bother to read. Jason left that night humming. I stayed at the kitchen table. Sophie came in and sat beside me. "You two seem to be getting along better," she said, almost hopeful. I didn't answer, because sometimes the only way to protect someone from the truth is to let it reveal itself. The more we trust, the deeper we bleed. But when we stay sharp, even pain becomes a weapon. Use it wisely. Sophie hadn't said much in the past few days. Not to me, anyway. She moved through the house like a ghost of the girl I raised, soft footsteps, careful glances, folding laundry that didn't need folding. I'd catch her watching me from the hallway, holding a cup of tea with both hands like it might steady her. She thought I didn't notice, but I saw it in her eyes, uncertainty, that quiet kind. Not suspicion, not of Jason at least. No, she trusted him. She thought something was wrong with me. I could tell from the way she tilted her head when I forgot to turn off the stove, the way she gently corrected me when I called her Sarah, her mother's name. I did that one on purpose. She winced, but she didn't ask questions. I think part of her wanted to believe it, that I was slipping, that the world was just getting heavy on my shoulders, and that Jason, her husband, the man with all the right words, was just trying to help. She told me once, "Dad, you've always taken care of everything. Maybe it's okay to let someone else do that now." That hurt more than anything Jason ever said, because that's how you lose your children, not when they stop loving you, but when they start believing you need protecting from your own life. I couldn't blame her. I raised her to see the good in people, but God help me, I never taught her how to see through them. Jason entered the study like he was visiting an old friend. He carried no tension in his shoulders, no trace of the schemes I knew were bubbling under that crisp smile. "Frank," he said warmly, settling into the armchair across from me, "do you remember that 4th of July barbecue? The one where you tried to teach me how to grill steaks?" I nodded slowly. "You burned all 6. He laughed. Genuine, maybe the last genuine thing left in him. "I was trying to impress you," he said. "You just let us move into the house." Sophie was glowing. She'd always talk about how this place made her feel safe. His voice softened. "I want to give her that again, Frank. A real future. Maybe even start that home bakery she's always dreamed about." I watched him closely. He leaned forward, placed a folder on my desk. "I know things have been hard lately. Your memory, your routines. And I'm not trying to take anything away from you. This is just a formality." He opened the folder. "Authorization for temporary financial oversight. Just like before, just as dangerous." He tapped the line marked, "Signature. If we can show the bank that you're on board of and just to let Sophie help with the refinancing, they'll push the funds through. We can fix the roof, pay off those lingering medical bills. You'd still be in control." He handed me the pen. I stared at it, then looked at the paper again. What's this one for again, Jason? He smiled patiently. It's just like we discussed, to let us help manage things. I picked up the pen, then set it down. You know, I think I left the stove on. Should I check? Jason's smile twitched. It's fine, just a quick signature. I'll take care of the rest. I nodded. Of course. Of course, but do I write my full name? Jason's jaw tightened. Yes, like always, Frank. I looked confused. Is today Wednesday? He stood. You're stalling. I blinked. I'm just trying to remember the year. Jason's tone dropped. Cut the act. Silence. Then he slammed the folder shut. You think this is funny? You think you can play games with me? I gave you a chance to make this easy. He leaned across the desk. I don't want you dead, Frank. I just want you irrelevant. A quiet gasp from behind him. Sophie. She stood at the doorway, eyes wide, face pale. Jason turned. Sophie, he's confused again. He's been like this all week. She didn't move. He's been pretending, she whispered. Jason stepped forward. No, you don't get it. This is for you, for us. That's why you made me sign. You lied to me. I pressed the recorder on the side of my desk. Then the study door opened. 2 officers entered, Daniel behind them. Jason froze. Daniel tossed a file on the desk. Full case file, audio evidence, legal counsel notified. Jason's voice cracked. You can't be serious. I hit play. I don't want him dead. I just want him irrelevant. The room froze. Sophie looked at him one last time, eyes full of betrayal and disbelief. I loved you, she said, but you never existed. And for the first time, Jason had nothing to say. I didn't suspect Jason at first. That was the worst part. I wanted to believe he was just clumsy with money, overly eager, a little too slick, but not dangerous. But then came the first slip. It was the bank statement. I found it in the mail before he could. It listed a credit inquiry I didn't authorize. He said it was a mistake, that the bank confused our address with someone else's. He smiled while saying it. That smile was too easy. Then came the whispers. Late at night, Jason on the phone in the garage, talking low, pacing slow. I couldn't hear words, but I knew the rhythm. It was the sound of planning. I started testing him, pretending to misplace my keys, asking him questions I already knew the answers to, watching how he answered not what he said, but how long it took him to lie. Then there was the day he brought Sophie chamomile tea and, accidentally, left legal forms underneath her napkin. I saw that look in his eyes. He didn't want to help me. He wanted to replace me. So I stopped waiting. I called Daniel Marcus. I bought a second recorder. I set up the camera hidden inside the smoke detector. I even drafted a false version of the power of attorney, knowing he'd jump at the chance to get it signed. Every word he spoke, every slip, every manipulation, I captured it. Because if Jason was going to steal my life, I was going to steal his story. They gave Jason 5 minutes before the officers took him in. He stood in the hallway, wrists unshackled for now, eyes scanning the home like it still belonged to him. Sophie stood across from him, arms folded, breathing shallow, as if the air itself had turned poisonous. He tried to smile. It came out crooked. Sophie, he said, voice low, this isn't how it was supposed to happen. She said nothing. I did it for us, he continued. I thought your dad was fading. I didn't want to lose everything. I wanted to protect our future. She blinked. Our future? Jason stepped closer. All those nights we talked about opening that bakery, traveling, starting over. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I thought it was time to step in. Sophie's voice, when it came, was cold, steady. You mean take over? He flinched. You made me sign papers behind my back, she said. You told me my father was sick. You made me believe he needed help, when all along it was you. Jason's shoulders dropped. His voice cracked. I didn't know how else to make it happen. Your dad, he's strong. He's stubborn. He would have kept everything locked up forever. She took a step forward, eyes burning. So you lied. You stole. You tried to erase him. Jason's eyes filled, voice trembling. I didn't want to lose you. She paused, then said, almost a whisper, you lost me the moment you saw my father as an obstacle in Yoa's family. Jason broke. Tears came quick and clumsy, streaking down a face too proud for emotion until now. His hands shook as the officer stepped forward, cuffing him quietly. Wait, he said, barely audible. Sophie, please. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there as the man she once trusted was walked away, head low, future gone. I watched it all from the next room, out of sight. I didn't say a word. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew, in that moment, the silence spoke louder than anything I could have said. I watched from the shadows, not because I was hiding, but because I didn't know if I could bear the weight in Sophie's eyes. I'd prepared myself for betrayal, for the lies, the manipulation, even the moment the cuffs snapped shut on Jason's wrists. But nothing could prepare me for her silence. That look on her faces, if something inside her had been torn in two. No father ever wants to see his daughter like that. No father ever should. After they took Jason away, Daniel stayed behind. He'll be facing multiple charges, he told me. Coercion, fraud, attempted elder abuse, with evidence this clear, 5 to 10 years, minimum. I nodded. Not because it made me feel better, but because justice had a name now, a length, a shape. What it didn't have, what it could never give back, was trust. And that's what worried me. Sophie had always led with her heart. She saw light in shadows, gave second chances like candy on Halloween. Part of me feared that in the quiet moments, the long, aching Oneshi might begin to doubt herself, to wonder if Jason ever meant the things he said, if the bakery dreams were real, if the man she loved could still be found somewhere inside the one they just took away, and if that seed of doubt ever sprouted, she might forgive him. And that scared me more than anything Jason had done, because I could protect her from predators, but I couldn't protect her from herself. The envelope came a week after the arrest. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Neat, controlled. Jason always wrote like he was still trying to impress someone. Inside, a folded piece of lined paper. 3 paragraphs, no excuses, no pleas. Just this. Frank, I don't know what I can say that would matter. I broke your trust. I failed Sophie. I failed myself. But if there's any piece of you that believes people can change, I hope one day you'll let me prove I'm not the worst version of me. I never hated you. I envied you. I wanted to be respected by you. That doesn't excuse anything, but it's the truth. I'm sorry. I folded the letter back. Didn't rip it. Didn't reply either. Instead, I went to my bookshelf and pulled out a copy of a book I'd read a dozen times in my youth law and dignity. A thin volume full of essays about justice, remorse, and what makes a man more than his mistakes. I scribbled one line on the inside cover before sending it back. If you'd read this before trying to take my house, we might be writing different letters. Frank Whitaker. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where Jason once smiled like a son and asked me to trust him. I pulled out a fresh sheet of paper. Title: Last Will and Testament. Revised. I wrote slowly, carefully. Left everything to Sophie. No conditions, no trusts, no oversight. Just one note. To my daughter, who kept her heart even when the world tried to break it. As I signed the final page, I felt nothing triumphant, only tired. Because winning back what someone tried to steal isn't the same as never losing it in the first place. And no paper, no signature, no verdict would give Sophie back the innocence she gave away in the name of love. Do you believe someone who betrays trust deserves forgiveness? Share your thoughts below. Later that evening, Sophie found me in the garden. She didn't say anything at first, just stood beside me, watching the breeze shake the old maple leaves. It was the same spot where she'd learned to ride a bike, where her mother used to sit and read aloud. Finally, she spoke. I read his letter, she said. He nodded. So did I. He said he did it for us. For a future. Her voice trembled. But a future built on lies isn't one I want. I looked at her. There was no anger in her eyes anymore. Just something deeper. Sadness, maybe. Or clarity. I'm not going to respond, she added. Not because I hate him, but because I don't want to give him another version of me to manipulate. I placed a hand on her shoulder. I was scared you'd forgive him. She smiled faintly. I did, but forgiveness isn't the same as return. I exhaled relief and ache mingling like smoke in my chest. You've grown stronger, I said quietly. No, she replied. I just finally listened to the voice you taught me to trust my own. Months passed. The house grew quiet again, but not empty, not sad. Sophie moved out, not to escape the memories, but to start fresh on her own terms. She opened a small studio downtown. Not a bakery, as Jason once dreamed, but something far more powerful. A life skills workshop for women who had survived betrayal. She called it Stand Tall. Every week, she stood in front of a group of strangers and helped them rebuild. Not just finances or routines, but confidence, dignity, self-worth. I lost myself once, she told them, but I found the strength in knowing I'm not alone. As for me, I stayed. I tended the garden, finished the basement shelves I'd promised to fix for years, and I started writing, not just about what happened, but about what it means to be a father, to love someone enough to let them fall, but be strong enough to catch them when they rise again. My book's working title? Betrayal Stories and Other Things That Didn't Break Me. And every word I write reminds me. Justice didn't come from rage or revenge, it came from patience, preparation, and one tiny hidden camera. The same camera that helped save my daughter. The same camera that reminded me what it meant to protect not with fists, but with faith. Because people don't truly lose everything when they're robbed. They only lose when they don't dare to stand up again. If you believe justice can begin with one small camera, share this story. Let others hear what betrayal stories truly feel like. And don't forget to follow us for more emotional journeys, each one reminding us what a father, would do for love. Betrayal stories don't just hurt, they reveal. They show us who we are and who we'll become. And sometimes they remind us that the strongest person in the room is often the one who stayed silent the longest.